It's the Morning Star Drive 117.8. You soaring up with sky, now's the time, don't delay. I'm sitting in my ride and it's time to fly. So let's realign, just listen and fill your mind.
I'm burning with desire and the passion. Nobody can stop me when I'm like this. I got my head in the zone, you know. I'm on the Morning Star Drive, you know.
Hey guys, how's it going? It's Friday, March 18th, and this is the Morning Star Drive on 117.8. We're on YouTube, so make sure to subscribe, follow us on SoundCloud, and make sure to support us on Patreon. So what is happening on this fabulous Friday? We've got coronavirus updates, current news from around the world, we'll have thoughts of the week, and let's testify with Tuli Ashton from Australia. All right, everyone, how are you doing? You must be excited. Not only did we just have 316 a couple days ago, it is Friday, we're into the weekend, we're going to get some more Word to, we're going to have a relaxing time on Saturday. I hope that everyone will be able to recharge this weekend and start another week together with the Lord, all right? So, how have things been? It's been 2 days. And I'm going to tell you this, I know that even though 316 just came along, one thing I know absolutely and for certain is that Satan is going to attack after these big types of events. And some of us are going to make it through, and some of us are going to fall back into temptation. But what I want you guys to understand is this is what happens. When something big happens like this 316 commemoration, this is when Satan attacks also. And just one of those stories that you need to know is the story of Elijah. Now, what does this have to do with Elijah? Remember after Elijah defeated like the 850 prophets of Baal and Asherah, right? And then, they killed all of them. And then, what's her name? Her name was Jezebel. Jezebel gets pissed and like, how dare you do that to my prophets? And then she vows to kill him within 24 hours. Now, think about this. Great, huge event. God showed his miracle. And this miracle was like, oh my goodness, we just defeated all the prophets of Baal and Asherah. Idol worship is destroyed. And then this woman comes in with this threat of your life. And then all of a sudden, what does Elijah do? He runs into the wilderness and tells God, I quit. Kill me now. I don't want to do this anymore. And Sansim actually talked about this and said, yeah, this is what life is like. And we're going to go through it. When a major event happens, right after it's done, after you get on that high, we're going to want to relax. And this is what usually happens is you have a huge event, you just want to relax and kind of let yourself go. Now, what I'm telling you is don't think it's bad to relax. It's don't relax the alertness of Satan coming in. And I'm going to tell you too, even for me, this second day after, same thing. It's like, oh my gosh, like why are sometimes my thoughts go back to my old thoughts. I'm like, why am I thinking this way? We just had 316. But I want you guys to know it's a normal thing, but we have to understand it properly. If we don't normalize it, if we don't tell people that this is a normal occurrence that Satan attacks after a big event, what happens is people end up feeling guilty that they're back to where they were before, or people start to feel like, oh my gosh, maybe I've never changed, maybe I'm still the same. And the answer is no, that is not true, right? Remember, just because you fall back into something doesn't mean you haven't become better. All right. So imagine remember what Sansim said about resurrection. He basically said that, hey, resurrection is not doing as much as you did before is a better resurrection, right? Becoming a little bit better. So think about it in this sense. Imagine you're someone, let's take it in terms of money, someone who gives tithe, and let's say tithing, 100% of tithe is like 10%, right? Well, we know, biblically speaking, is 10%. So let's just say that, you didn't give any tithe before. And then you're like, you know what? I got to give tithe. So then you start off and you give like 2%. Guess what? You've resurrected. You went from 0 to 2%. Right? And then what happens is you might miss the next week and you might think to yourself, oh, all that change wasn't worth it. It's like, no. You're getting used to it once again. You're getting yourself back into that habit. And the next time you double and you give 4% to make up for the other one. Right? And then the next time you give like, you know what? I'm going to give more than 2. I'm going to give 3. And then 3.5, 3.7, 3.9. And what happens is you're always improving, getting better and better. Now, one of the biggest mistakes that we'll make is when we think to ourselves is, if I miss once, then I've gone back to 0. And the answer is, no, you haven't. You haven't, right? So, it's just kind of like we're learning as we go. And there are difficult things that happen. And, sometimes we get our butt kicked from Satan. Sometimes we do, right? And especially after we have these big events is when Satan kicks into overdrive. And of course, there's like slander and all these other different things that are happening. But we need to understand is a lot of these things are normal occurrences, meaning they're going to happen every single time. After every major event, Satan will attack no matter what, okay? So I just really hope that all of us here can encourage and support each other and just make sure that all of us are, praying and praising each other, encouraging. Do it to your head leaders, your people below you, people next to you. Let's become a community that can really support and encourage each other more than anything else. And of course, that's what we want. We want to build this community here on the Morning Star Drive. So let's build a community BTC, right? Well, everyone else thinks that's Bitcoin. So let's just say build the community. And, I want to hear from you guys, see how you're doing, post your song requests, the things that you've been doing. And yeah, if you got your butt kicked, it's okay. It's okay. Just got to get back up, right? So I hope that all of us here can support each other really well on the Morning Star Drive in the comments, whether it's going to be on SoundCloud or YouTube or whatever it is, all right? Yesterday, I did have a good conversation with a Japanese member. Remember, I did report to you guys that there was a big 7.4 earthquake over there, and it's pretty huge. And they called and they were thankful that we reported here on the Morning Star Drive. But even more so, they basically said that all the members are okay. So, everyone, let's really pray for Japan too. Of course, we have Ukraine. I don't know if we have any members in the Ukraine, to be honest. We might have Ukrainian members, but that are not in the Ukraine. But we do have members in Russia, and we need to pray for the Russian province also because, even though they're not the ones supporting the war, they're going to go through all the punishment, all the sanctions, the money and the inflation and all these things that are happening. And we really have to make sure that they're doing well too. So I hope that all of us, even if we don't know any of the members in Russia, let's really support them through our prayers or anything else. But Japanese members too. They just went through a really, really scary earthquake. And I'm not sure if you guys have ever been in an earthquake. The first earthquake I've ever felt was maybe the end of last year, and it was 4.1 on the Richter scale. And you could just feel the entire earth move. Like you can feel, it was a scary thing. The very foundations of the earth are moving and no one can escape it. And that was only 4.1. And if you go on the Richter scale, guys, going from one whole number to the next, like 4.1 to 5.1, 4 to 5, 5 to 6, is 10 times stronger than the number before. So 5 is 10 times stronger than 4, okay? Which means that 6 is 10 times stronger than 5, which is 10 times stronger than 4. So it is exponential. So if we were at 4.1 and it jumps to 7.4, that's like 3.3, like 3 whole numbers, which is 10 times 10 times 10, times 0.1, plus the 10% itself. So I couldn't even imagine exponentially by 3, right? 10 to the power of 3. That how crazy that would have been to be in a 7.4. And they basically said that anything above a 7 is very scary, right? And just the amount of energy that's released. Like if you think in terms, I was researching about this, that in terms of energy that's released, every whole number, the how many times the energy increases is 32 times per whole number. So from 4 to 5, the amount of energy released is 32 times more, and then again 32 times, and then 32 times. So yeah, it is not it's not something that everyone might be able to handle very well. So I really, really hope that we'll pray for our brothers and sisters out there, over there in Japan, over there in Russia, everyone who's being affected by those different types of things. When we look at life itself, we have all these things happening, pandemics and wars and slander. All these things are just happening, right? But what we have to understand is that even though all these things are happening, bad things happen. You're never going to have a smooth life. And we just have to be those that have to understand that the only thing that's unwavering is God. Even the whole earth would shake in an earthquake, but God is unwavering. So I really, really hope that we can hold on to God no matter what in all these situations that we're going through. Okay? So yesterday, did you guys watch the new video on Espresso with Sky? Do you go straight to heaven after you die? I hope you guys really, really enjoyed that one. And it's something that you can show to your newcomers. And go ahead, show some support. Like the video and also comment on it. And that's something that's going to really be able to push the algorithm to get these videos out to many people around the world. Also, remember this week's Sunday edition with Garrett Van Hoy from the U.S. Looking forward to another awesome Sunday edition next week as we meet Rachel Tan from Malaysia. She is a campus member. You guys will really, really love her. She's evangelized her mom, her brother, her cousin. Well, actually, she evangelized her mom and her brother and her dad too. And the dad, still learning, no persecution whatsoever. Good relationship. The mom is, Auntie B. She is on fire. Like she is, I think she evangelized her niece or her cousin, which is Rachel's cousin. No, it's just, fiery. This family is quite amazing. I had the pleasure of being able to meet with them and lecture them and, teach them Bible study and stuff like that too. But guys, you're going to enjoy this interview also. So I hope that you guys go check that out for the Sunday edition. And I just want to let you guys know these word studies and Bible studies are all on Patreon. So if you want to support us on Patreon, go ahead and join us on Patreon for videos each and every week. All right. So let's get into the member artists from around the world. And we'll start off with today's featured artist of the day, which is, of course, I told you yesterday, we're going to do Diawings from Korea. Brand new song with the music video that came out. And I put the link in the description on Wednesday. Diawings from Korea, brand new song, We're Going Up. Great, amazing song. And there's, I think there is another male rapper in there that's featured in, I think it's Beat G, his name is, right? Beat K? Yeah. Let me just check that 1 second because, these people are doing such an amazing job and I don't want to ruin their, I gotta give them their due, right? Because these are just amazing people. We're going up. Oh, we're going up now. Okay, we're going up now. And let's look at the music video because the music video gives us, it shows us the name of the person. Right, so 1 second, I'm almost there. Yeah, we're going up, music video featuring Beat G. That's his name, Beat G. All right, so we're gonna enjoy that song. This is a great song, and everyone knows Diawings. They're like a real K-pop group, and they're doing really, really well. Production, mastering, everything is done really well. So I hope you guys can really support them in your prayers. That song is We're Going Up Now. So I'm gonna add that at the very end of this, which is We're Going Up Now. And then we have MC One Love from Australia with The Journey, and this is his journey from being a Gentile to Christian and coming into Providence. And last but not least, we have Juice Star Eden Verity from New Zealand. We're going to break things down with the song Believe in Me.
새로운 자유로움이 내 안에 차올라 Nobody can describe me, I know who I am 정해진 운명 따윈 믿지 않아, I don't care All limitations are set by yourself 내 길이 전에 오늘 정해져 있는 길이라고 누가 말했어요 어느 길을 가든 내가 선택하면 가는 거지 앞에도 이 두 가지 길 쭉 내
난 배우고 알았으니 자유로움이 벅차오르니 날개가 돋아난 내 I'm free 거기에 도착해 내 덕분에
I can't help loving myself 나만의 diamonds 나만의 crown One who wants to wear the crown Wear the crown, then wear the crown
We're going up now Going, that's right Keep moving, that's right You ready? Be strong We're going up now Going, that's right Keep moving, that's right You ready? Be strong We're going up now
뭣도 모르고 뭣도 모르는 것들 법을 모르니 덫에 걸린 적들 있지 난 달러만을 찾지 않아 성공 법지 just do it 내 자신을 kill it 매일 새로 태어나 아닌 그냥 자연스럽게 그리 살지 정해 아니 연속된 굴레에서 벗어나 새롭게 깨어나
그냥 나를 지비틀 거리던 데 좀 더 예쁜 톤으로 좀 더 나를 튀어나고 만들어 myself 다 들어오른 말은 내 때를 바꿔도 call me on the 홀로서 뭐야 너도 별나가고 싶다며 그럼 너부터 만든다며 눌러봐 새롭지가 매다매 졸았어도 밤에도 빛나는 다이아몬드
spell it out for you. Too great for abbreviation. Struggling, no peace, can't even sleep. Stress creeping in, stuck in the clay and mire. Hanging by the wire, tormented by the liar. Need an escape, don't wait. Holy Spirit can relate. Only one who can pull you through. Life's a test, but we blessed. Every day's a blessing, I'm not finessing. As long as you're still breathing, there's hope to change, rearrange a new mentality. The word of truth based in reality. Call out to God, the higher power. No Jack Bauer, making life so sweet when it is sour. Saving in the 11th hour. Life's energy was diminished. I felt like I was finished. Battery on empty. Satan trying to tempt me to get reckless with my ways. Let the truth resonate. Don't hesitate. Better things await you. Keep moving forward toward that breakthrough. Through the fire tribulation, new transformation. Be all you can be. Find strength in the Trinity. Holy Trinity holds you down. Picks me up off the ground. I was lost when I met him. I was found. Word up, word up. I was blind but now I see. I was living without hope at the end of my rope. The sound was so dope. I met the Lord's history. Purpose ain't a mystery. I was blind but now I see. I was living without hope at the end of my rope. The sound was so dope. I met the Lord's history. Purpose ain't a mystery. My state was incomplete. Had to bow down at his feet. Seen some dark nights out there on some cold streets. Satan never defeats me where the word and truth are complete. See, it completes me. God, Holy Son, Holy Spirit, complete. Three, completely united with the triune. Enlighten my path. Walk step by step, hand in hand with the Lord. Can't afford to go back, nothing remains. Friends committing suicide, people making bad choices. God hears the broken people's voices. We ride for the Lord, Messiah, Messiah. Riding on the eagle's wings, flying higher, higher. You'll be caught up, raptured. My heart is captured, my spirit has raptured. Used to carry a knife for protection until I met the Lord's affection. Resurrection, crossed from a place of death to new life introspection. Asking what's life's purpose made me nervous, no longer feel dead. I'm in love with the one holding the key to life everlasting. Hear it in your speakers blasting. Gonna get back what Satan stole from me. Do righteousness and hard work. Sick condition. Facing my fears, Trinity hears my petition. Taking action on the word, promises coming to fruition. Rising up to a higher level. You can hear it in the bass, you can hear it in the treble. I was blind but now I see. I was living without hope at the end of my rope. The sound was so dope. I met the Lord's history. Purpose ain't a mystery. I was blind but now I see. I was living without hope at the end of my rope. The sound was so dope. I met the Lord's history. Purpose ain't a mystery.
She can't see to the future. No matter how hard she tries, a piece of heaven chipped off and fell to her. But it's so heavy to carry. Some call it a dream or a heartache, 'cause it's so hard to believe in me. Till I can say I could believe in me. How long till I can say I could believe in me? How long till I can say I could believe in me? How long till I can say I could believe in? I've been staring at the girl in that picture. She doesn't know who to be. and dreamer. Find it so hard to believe in me. How long till I can say I would believe it? How long till I can say I would believe it? How long till I can say I would believe it? How long till I can say I would believe I try to change your mind every day, every day. I try to pull myself from the frame, from the frame. I try to change her mind every day, every day. I try to make her listen, but she looks back the same way. I try to change her mind every day, every day. I try to pull myself from the frame, from the frame. I try to change her mind every day, every day. I try to make her listen, but she looks back the same way. How long till I can say I would believe it? How long till I can say I would believe it? How long till I can say I would believe it? How long till I can say I would believe it? How long till I can say I would believe it? How long till I can say I would believe it?
And that was Justar Edenverdi from New Zealand with one of her older songs, really, really good one. That was Believe in Me. Before that, MC One Love from Australia with The Journey. And of course, the feature artist of the day, that is Dia Wings from Korea with a new song that just dropped on 316. That song is We're Going Up Now featuring Beat G. All right, everyone. So let's get into some news going on around the world. And of course, is really, really important, especially when one of our prayer topics is about the Ukraine war, and we need to pray knowing the situation really well. Okay, so let's start off with the coronavirus updates. With the global numbers to date for the last 2 years, there have been 465.2 million cases with over 6.08 million deaths. And good news is mortality rate has dropped for the third day in a row to 1.3%. Top 5 countries going by daily death rates, US on top, and numbers remain low. Only 982 deaths and 30,000 cases in a single day, and that's the top. And remember, we're used to the US being up to 1,800, 2,000 deaths in a day by Friday, right? But only 982, so that's cut in half. Russia in second with 576 deaths and 36,000 cases. Brazil, 354 deaths and 45,000 cases, and then Germany with 298 deaths and 275,000 cases, which is a lot, 275,000, yeah. And then Hong Kong rounds at the top 5 with 279 deaths and 29,000 cases. Over here in North America, of course, the U.S. is on top. Mexico is actually in like 6th with 260 deaths and 6,000 cases, and then Canada, 42 deaths and 5,900 cases, all right? So let's get into top 3 news, and of course, we're going to start off with the Ukraine war. So we see some more Russian attacks as Russia attacks a theater that's sheltering civilians, the Ukraine says. Ukraine has accused Russian forces of bombing a theater where civilians are sheltering in the besieged southern city of Mariupol. Deputy Mayor Sergei Orlov told the BBC that between 1,000 and 1,200 people had sought refuge in the building. While the number of casualties is unclear, a local MP said the basement where people were gathered had withstood the bombing. But an advisor to the city's mayor earlier said emergency workers were struggling to reach the building due to constant shelling. So images of the theater verified by the BBC showed extensive damage and smoke rising from the site. And Russia's airstrikes and shells have previously hit a maternity hospital, a church, and apartment buildings. And Mariupol's city council said in a statement that Russian forces deliberately and cynically destroyed the theater, saying a plane dropped the bomb on a building where hundreds of peaceful Mariupol residents were hiding. Now, the Ukraine foreign minister and the city council accused Russia of a war crime in the wake of the attack, and Ukraine's President Vladimir Zelensky denounced the bombing and said Russia had deliberately targeted the theater. Now, satellite pictures taken on March 14th, released by the U.S. company Maxar, showed the Russian word for children had been marked on the ground in large letters to warn Russian jets away from the building, and the BBC was earlier told that many children and elderly people were sheltering inside and that conditions were quickly deteriorating. Now, local authorities say at least 2,400 people have been killed in Mariupol since the start of the war, although they acknowledge this is likely to be an underestimate, and many of the dead are being buried in mass graves. An estimated 300,000 residents are trapped inside the city where running water, electricity, and gas have been cut off. Food and water supplies are running low as Russian troops have not allowed the delivery of humanitarian aid. Now, hours after news of the destruction emerged, the Russian Defense Ministry denied it had carried out an airstrike against the theater. About 1,500 cars had managed to flee Mariupol on Wednesday, according to Mr. Orlov, the deputy mayor. In other news in the war, Russians are having to adjust to a grinding warfare, and this comes from Western officials. So the situation on the ground in Ukraine is not changing dramatically. Western officials have told journalists, and it is possible that Ukraine could fight Russia to a standstill. The officials said one estimate that 7,000 Russian troops had been killed was not in any sense an implausible one. The question now, they said, was whether Putin decides to double down with greater brutality. And the Western officials also said that Russian aircraft were having to move with considerable caution to avoid Ukrainian air defenses, and Russia's attempt to bring in more forces was clearly not part of the original plan and demonstrates the extent to which Russia has got bogged down. Now, morale among Russian troops was extremely low, and asked whether Russia might have to change its war aims in the face of current losses, officials said it was very hard to tell. However, one of the officials said they don't have the impression at the moment that Russia is close to a point at which it could not prosecute its war aims. So the officials pointed out that Ukraine is suffering losses too, and that it's not clear how long they can hold out. So on peace talks, officials said both sides were taking them seriously, but the gaps between them were still large, and they couldn't say if they would bear fruit. Also, there was a big attack on a school. So at least 21 were killed in a school attack. Officials say at least 21 people were killed and 25 injured when Russia shelled a school and cultural center near Kharkiv. And officials say at least 21 people were killed, 25 injured. And the rescue efforts in Mariupol continue as authorities search for survivors after a strike hits the theater building where hundreds had been sheltering. And one person was killed and 3 injured when debris from a downed rocket hit a Kyiv apartment block as Russian forces press in on the capital. So Ukraine says Russia attacked a theater and a pool facility in Mariupol where hundreds of civilians were sheltering. And Moscow denies the claim. We just talked about that too. And interestingly, the U.S. President Joe Biden calls Putin a war criminal. And Putin basically said his response was, "That is unforgivable." So very interesting to see what Russia's going to do with Joe Biden or with the U.S. And last but not least, we'll go back to the kind of updates on what's happening with the earthquake. So 4 dead after Japan hit by tremor. Powerful earthquake that hit northeast Japan left at least 4 people dead and 160 injured, officials said, but caused relatively minor damages, thank God. 2 million homes initially lost power and a bullet train was derailed. But thank God again, none of its passengers were hurt. The Japan Meteorological Agency lifted a tsunami warning on Thursday morning. and the magnitude 7.4 quake was in the same area as the one which caused the 2011 Fukushima nuclear disaster, but it was not damaged this time. So in some areas, the earthquake was too forceful for people to stand, and buildings rattled in the capital, Tokyo, and a number of people across northeastern Japan were hurt by falling objects or in falls. And in the city of Soma, Fukushima Prefecture, local media reported that one man in his 60s had died. A second death was reported in Miyagi Prefecture. Some media reports said 4 people died in the quake, but government spokesman Hirokazu Matsuno said the number of fatalities directly caused by it was still being confirmed. So it may be 4, it could be less, it could be more, right? And electricity to more than 2.2 million homes was temporarily cut in 14 prefectures, including the Tokyo region. But by mid-morning, power had been restored to most places, the local electricity provider said. And there was a lucky escape for those on board of a bullet train that was derailed that was north of Fukushima City, but fortunately, it was not going fast, and no one was hurt. So that is a very, very big thank you to God for that. Passengers and staff were trapped for 4 hours on board before being able to escape, but more than anything else, no one was hurt, no one died, so thank God for this. And one thing you guys need to know is the way that Tokyo builds their structures, they are all like earthquake proof. Well, not proof, but to a certain extent. So even though they shook for 2 minutes, there wasn't a lot of structural damage on the building. So that is another great thing that one of the engineering wonders that Japan does over there. Okay, so that is the news going on around the world. So let's get into some sporting news. In the NHL, Vancouver Canucks didn't play, but that's okay. We're only 1 point away from a wild card game, so I'm super happy about that. But in Canadian hockey team news, Calgary Flames, they defeat the New Jersey Devils 6-3, so that's good. The Ottawa Senators lose to the Columbus Blue Jackets 4-1, and some other games on the list, but not really interesting to me. I only care about my team. In NBA news, a big slate last night. Charlotte defeats Atlanta Hawks 116-106. LaMelo Ball, 22 points, 8 rebounds, 11 assists. Philadelphia, another win. I think they're gone like 5 for 6 with Harden there. 118-114 over Cleveland. Joel Embiid, 35 points, 17 rebounds. I believe James Harden had like 21 points and 11 assists. So good for, they're doing a great job over there. Denver Nuggets. Right, Denver Nuggets defeat the Washington Wizards 127-109, and Nikola Jokic, he's the front runner for the MVP, 29 points and 7 rebounds. New York Knicks defeat the Portland Trailblazers. I wouldn't normally report on the Knicks, but they got a Canadian on the team. It's RJ Barrett with 31 points. Dallas Mavericks defeat the Brooklyn Nets 113-111. Luka Doncic with 37 points, 9 rebounds, 9 assists. Phoenix on a roll even without Chris Paul, 129-112 over the Houston Rockets. Devin Booker with 36 points. Milwaukee Bucks, the reigning champions, 135-126 over the Sacramento Kings. Chris Middleton with 32 points, 8 rebounds. And also 8 assists. Boston Celtics defeat the Golden State Warriors 110-88, so that's a pretty hefty win. And Jason Tatum with 26 points and 12 rebounds. And what just starting today, guys, March Madness. It is the men's college basketball March Madness. It is the tournament. Most people will not be watching college basketball during the season, but everyone watches this, and it's going to be like, it's the one thing that makes all the money for college basketball. First round is starting today, so we'll start reporting on it from next week. 64 teams, single elimination matchup. This is where the stars are made, and teams in the NBA can see who are the new upcoming new NBA players that they're going to be drafting soon in a couple of months too. So super excited about this. Hope you guys really, really enjoyed. Okay, so that is the top 3 news in sports, in current news, and of course the coronavirus updates for today, which means we're going to get into the golden time. And yes, we're going to start off. As much as there is difficulty, as much as there's things happening all around, we are living the life of heaven. And the thing that makes it the life of heaven is, we've fulfilled the purpose of creation. We have raptured. Our spirits are in the golden city. We are living the life, and all we need to do now is, with that assurance and that guarantee of our spirits, that if we died right now, we'd be in the golden city. we got to go out despite all the difficulties and bring in the lives into this history and save them from the perils of hell, all right? So we're going to sing that first song, Life of Heaven. That's what we're living. And then we'll get into everyone in every time period, and then we'll end things off with a new rendition done on the English Pravi music site, and we're going to listen to Blind Love, all right? So as one body of the Morning Star Drive, let's spend this time giving praise, honor, and glory to the Holy Trinity.
Created on earth is a perfect world of heaven. We live with the Lord and all His earth, and in that true life of heaven. As we serve our God and Holy Spirit, here with the Lord, we fulfill the rapture here on earth, and it's a life of heaven.
Everything God created in this whole world, earth, sea, and sky, it's heaven on earth. there's history. God was with us, we've overcome. We fulfilled God's will of love. God was with us, we've overcome. We fulfilled God's will of love. God was with us, we've overcome. We fulfilled God's will of love. There is nothing I can see, though it's right in front of me. Blinded with love for the Lord, I can see nothing but my Lord. I love you, Lord. No matter what hardships I face, it is all right with me. I only look to the Lord. I have become a fool for the Lord, truly. I'm a fool who knows only the Lord. I love you, Lord, with all this heart of mine. I love you, Lord, my love, my dear Lord. Blazing brightly like the sun with the love of the Lord. My tears just cannot stop flowing from my eyes. I love you, Lord, with all this heart of mine. I love you, Lord, my love, my dear Lord. I am happy, truly happy, blinded by the Lord's love, unchanging from the start to eternity. I love you.
that is Blind Love. You guys remember when that song first came out? When Pastor Joan first... Yeah, that's another Pastor Joan song. Like, there's so many of these amazing songs that came from Pastor Joan too. Pastor Joan and Sunseam are they're like two olive trees. Like, one is like the more traditional, one is more modern, one is older, one is younger. And wow, like these songs are so good. I really enjoyed this. Is the new version that just came out on the Pravi Source or Pravi Music, right? And I hope you guys really enjoyed that. Blind Love, oldie but a goodie. Before that was Everyone in Every Time Period. And of course, that first song was Life of Heaven. All right, so we're going to get into the word study for today. And of course, a lot of things changed this week only because of the 316. 316, we changed the entire format. We had a time of praise and worship and just talking about 316. So, thoughts of the week, we couldn't do that at the right time. Danny's money, we had to miss that over here too. So a lot of different things that are happening, and I'm really, really hoping that just this week there's a little bit of change, but it's the last day of the week here for this podcast. To make this change, the next week we'll go back to what it was originally, right? And because there's a lot of stuff coming out about slander and things like that. But here's the interesting thing is not many people even know. You know what I mean? And it's not, from what I've seen so far, it hasn't really even been that far reaching, right? Like I said, when that program on YouTube Live, it was like less than 300 people watching. And, a big chunk of those people are people on that side, in that team, I guess, that were like chatting up a storm in there. But it was quite interesting to me. I was like, oh, okay, well, it didn't really catch a lot of people. And of course, it went on to the news in SBS and whatever, stuff like that for a few minutes. But I haven't heard much of it yet. My parents haven't even heard of it yet either. And they're watching Korean news and stuff like that too. But, we'll see what happens. I'm not sure. But, one thing I did want to talk about when it comes to the thoughts of the week for, this week, I did talk about at the beginning that after, God has a major event, then Satan comes to attack. And of course, we see these attacks happening right now. And I know that in other countries too, there's probably slander going on, right? And what just recently happened is in Korea. So a lot of us here in the Western countries, we're not going to really feel the like the national effects of it. Like in Korea, probably rumors are going to spread. It's going to be a little bit harder. People are going to ask these questions over there in Korea when it comes to evangelism and stuff. But in Western countries, I just don't see that wave of impact being that huge, right? And this is why we want to put everything into context as we become leaders, and we are leaders of this history. Now, what do I mean by leader? I'm not talking about leader by title, like you're a pastor, a pre-pastor, a minister, a this or that, you're a department leader. No, I'm talking about leadership mentality, right? And as people who are leaders of this history, we have to understand all situations and circumstances. And if we don't really think about this type of stuff, what's going to happen is we end up making things bigger than they really are. When sometimes you're like, hey, what happened? Hey, no, Sasim said you shouldn't listen to this. No, Sasim said no. Rah, 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 rah. And then all of a sudden we become very abrupt and almost rude about the situation. And it actually makes the full situation worse than it really is. And the reason I'm saying this is because as people who are leaders, it doesn't mean we have full information. That is not what I'm saying. I'm not saying there's you got to know everything about the situation. And the answer is no, right? The leadership mentality is the one that is very reasonable, very logical, understanding, not, being swayed by emotions. But when we talk about it, we got to talk, I don't think it's a bad thing to discuss. I think it's worse when you allow people to think whatever they want in their head and then start going to the worst case scenario. And I do think it's a discussion topic. I really, really do. Like for me too, the way I would discuss this, it would be like a word study. I would discuss it in 3 levels: spiritually, mentally, physically, like at all different levels. Like for instance, like why is this happening? And then let's discuss spiritually, right? Let's sit down and just have a reasonable conversation. Why would this be happening? Right? Number one is, if we're talking spiritually, well, there's prophecies about it. Like we talked about a couple days ago, Matthew chapter 24, verse 9 and 10 talks about people betraying the history. Talk about people, who are going to, persecute. When Jesus himself said, if they persecute me, they're going to persecute you, which means that there's prophecies about it, which means persecution and slander is expected. It is expected, right? And of course, we'll look at Jesus' time. It was expected, right? And then even after Jesus died and rose again and he resurrected, we looked at Christian history and we say, it hasn't stopped, right? So if you look at repeating history, it's not like just because Sunstein came out of, he came out of prison and stuff, it's like everything's supposed to stop now because we've resurrected, we're that much better. No. What's supposed to happen is we resurrected to a higher level so that even if higher and more difficult persecutions come, we can handle it, right? So is it, if this is happening, what does it mean? It means that it's following what history does. History keeps repeating itself. And we talked about Christian history. After Jesus resurrected, Paul preached for 30 years, and then he spread the gospel to like 10 different countries. And then the big persecution from the Roman government came from Emperor Nero. Then the temple of Jerusalem was destroyed. And then the second persecution came. And that was all within the first 100 years. And that includes Jesus' life on earth, right? So we're looking, that's something that we're like discussing. And I would discuss this in a very reasonable manner. Oh yeah, this happened too. So, as we know, history repeats itself. So let's take a look at history. What was history like, right? Then, I would talk about, mental and physical things too. Like for instance, I would talk about the generational issues that our society faces, right? And one thing that clinical psychologists are talking about is the young generation today are much more active when it comes to protesting and demonstrations. And it's part of looking for a purpose or meaning in life, right? And, a lot of the religious people would be saying is, well, if you lose God, where's your purpose and meaning? People are looking for something to attach themselves to. So this is why the youth today especially are very active in protesting and demonstration. So you'll look at like things like climate change and discrimination and racism and politics. And there's like all these different things that all these young people are latching onto. It gives them purpose and reason. Right? So because there's a lost sense of meaning in life, people are looking for something much bigger now to attach themselves to. So, these people will fly with their own money to protest in another country. People went to Scotland for the COP20, what's it called? The COP23? Right? For the climate change summit. And people, in America would fly to like Minnesota for the George Floyd protests, and they'd fly over here for this protest. They'd march on the streets with such vigor. And one of the reasons, they're talking about, especially the youth, this generation, is they don't have much to put meaning onto their life. And it's such like social media that everyone's attached to these things. Something breaks, something starts to trend, everyone just jumps on board, right? So there's a mental thing that we see about this generation, and what I do is we discuss it. That's what I would do. I would discuss that's interesting. Yeah, that's something that could be one of the issues why people would be so adamant about something, right? And even mentally too, right? Think about this. It's possible, right? And this is something that happens, is there could be a mental break that happens somewhere for someone to be that extreme. I was talking to another leader the other day about, what was happening, and we're just having a great conversation. And we're just talking about, what would drive someone to go that far? Because mentally speaking, it's kind of interesting, right? Because, life could, you could just move on. Like if you don't like this place that much, why don't you just move on and just not be part of it, right? Just move on with your life. Like, why would you want to tie yourself to the very thing that you don't like that much for the rest of your life? For instance, imagine, like the Slanders will go out and have a media thing and they'll record an interview and do all these things. But basically what they're doing is they're tying their life to this history forever. They're going to forever be known because of this interview and what everyone's going to see, whether it's made into a movie or whatever it is. Like, they're going to be forever tied to it. Like, who would, like... That's a big decision, that this is the place that you hate, you don't like that much, and then you want to tie yourself to it for the rest of your life. And that's like, wow, that's really interesting. What would drive someone to go that far, right? And, there's a lot of different reasons for it, and we need to look at it very, very carefully, right? For instance, what about people who are psychologically or mentally in a weakened state, right? They went through some type of trauma. Now, people who go through those types of things, what happens? It becomes very easy for a stronger person to come in to manipulate or coerce them, or usually find something behind. There's always something behind every action. For instance, when you see children who act up, who smoke, take drugs, criminal activities, they like the stats are in, very highly likely they come from a broken home. When kids are into that, right? Juvenile delinquents, right? Drugs, theft, smoking, sex, all these other different things like in heavy proportions where kids shouldn't be doing it, they are highly likely to come from a broken home, which is really interesting, right? Yeah. And you're like, oh, that's so. My point is, it's not like these people are coming from a broken home. I'm not talking about that. I'm just saying that when you look at those statistics, oh, there's something in the background, right? And there could be something traumatizing they went through. There could be something else. Like, I'll give you an example is, like the very first trial, there's same thing. 5 girls went up. And guess what? Private investigator went in and talked to 4 of the 5, and 4 of them all confessed that it wasn't true. They were coerced into it. They were told what to say. So you think to yourself, it's like, wait a second, this is already happening. Like, why would they say that? It doesn't make any sense, right? But you see that it's something that is repeating history too. It's like, oh, that's interesting. How could you get into that, right? But eventually, everything catches up to people, and they're going to be like, oh my goodness, like, why did I do that? And, private investigator, not Providence, not Christian, not anything, they figure it out, and they're like, wait a second, we talked to 4 already, and the 4 out of 5 already confessed that it's not true. It doesn't make any sense. Right? So you see that, yeah, when you're in a weakened state, something might have happened. And I'm sure too, especially in Providence, there are a lot of people that may not look at Providence in the right way. And they're looking at like, they think about, they get jealous or envious, feeling unloved, competition when it comes to getting Sunseam's attention and stuff like this. Or Sunseam treats someone else better than them. There's a lot of different things that can happen, right? It's true. And it's not like it's not natural. Why? Because it comes from a very powerful figure. People are attracted to powerful people, right? So, these are a couple things that I would think about to myself and say, yeah, this is something we should think about a little bit more deeply, right? Instead of like, no, don't talk about it. Oh, no, you can't say this. Oh, no, you can't say that. Why? Because it just makes things look worse than it really is. And I do think that eventually we need to get ourselves into a position where we're not just hiding people, right? Like, oh, run away from it, right? But, people are mature. This is why mature people are going to be like, why are you, like, totally treating us like children in this sense? Now, some people are children, which is true. And some people are not mature. So that's what I'm saying. Don't, start blowing off on every single person, but treat each person according to their level, situation, circumstance. And when I say mature, I'm not talking about spiritually. Because, I know I'm going to be honest with you guys. I've met like JS who've come, just amazing people. And, they're JS, they're mature. They've been through around the block. They know what's going on. Right? And that's why, I've heard some JS coming in and they heard the slander. It doesn't matter to them. It makes no difference to them whatsoever. And they're just like, no. I've seen this happen. Whenever there's big people, they try to do these bad things to them. He's like, yeah, it makes sense. Right? So what happens is I'm not talking about spiritually mature. I'm talking about physically, like mentally mature. These people will listen to things very reasonable with it. So I'm not talking about like, don't talk to people who've been in Providence for less than 3 years about this. And I'm like, well, no, it's not about that. It's about, are people mature enough to handle that type of conversation? And lo and behold, I think people a lot more are able to understand the situation more than we think. But I just, my thoughts right now is if you kind of slide it under the rug, eventually it keeps picking up more and more dust. It gets bigger and bigger, and then later on becomes something so big that people are wondering, why are you hiding? Oh, why are you hiding? Why are you hiding? And the answer is we shouldn't have, right? So, these are my thoughts. These are my personal opinions too. And kind of like from experiences in life and what I see. And when you try to hide something, people are more interested in it. But if you could sit down and talk about it in a very reasonable way, I think it's something that we can really understand better, and that people will be able to have a much better grasp of what is happening. Besides, Sunseam said, don't tell. Oh, Sunseam, don't tell. Oh, don't listen, don't watch, don't. Yeah, I think it's something that we have to look at in a very, very different way more than anything else. Either way. So that is those are my 2 cents on the situation happening right now. And, I think it's good. Leaders should discuss and, find a way that people will be able to handle it better. Because the worst thing that happens is when you're just overprotective and overbearing, they'll never be able to handle anything big, right? Is your country, or I'm sure in Korea, Japan, Taiwan, a bunch of different countries going through different types of slanders here and there, but there are multiple ways to attack a situation and to really stabilize it more than anything else. But the less you talk about it and the less you're into it, the more fear, uncertainty, and doubt creeps into people's minds, because they don't know what's going on. No one's going to tell them anything. And eventually they just think the worst case scenario more than anything else. So that is kind of my thoughts for the week. And I hope it's something that you guys can think about too when it comes to dealing with this situation properly. Not in some sensationalized way, but very reasonably. Okay. So those are the thoughts of the week for me, which means we're going to get into, I hope you guys enjoyed that too. And if you have any thoughts, go ahead, leave that in the comments below. Would love to hear it. I do want to talk about the musical Friday. It's a Friday, so I usually do musical Friday, but a lot of things have changed, and I wasn't able to play the song on Wednesday because we was 316. I didn't even do the boy band Thursday because there was a request. I should have done it on Wednesday, but it was 316. So what I'm going to do is, I have a choice to do musical Friday or boy band Thursday. And of course, me being a crazy boy band fan, I am going to choose boy band Thursday, and I'm going to do it for today, just this week. And next week we'll go back to the regular schedule. So we're going to go into a classic, one of the best of the Backstreet Boys songs. I was looking at the top 10 richest boy bands. Guess who's number one? Backstreet Boys, by a mile. It was really interesting. The top 10, like the one that made the most amount of money was Backstreet Boys, and then second place was like the Osmonds. The third place, what was the third place? But like Westlife was 10, NSYNC was like 8 or something like that, and New Kids on the Block was 4. But number one in the world boy band for the amount of money they made was the Backstreet Boys. So this is one of my favorite songs from them. This song is called "Drowning."
Don't pretend you're sorry. I know you're not. You know you got the power to make me weak inside. And girl, you're leaving me breathless. But it's okay, 'cause you are my survival. Now hear me say, I can't imagine life without your love. And even forever don't seem like long enough. 'Cause every time I breathe I take you in, and my heart beats again. Baby, I can't help it, you keep me drowning in your love. Every time I try to rise above, I'm swept away by love. Baby, I can't help it, keep me drowning in your love. Maybe I'm a drifter, maybe not, 'cause I have known the safety of floating freely in your arms. I don't need another lifeline, it's not for me, 'cause only you can save me. Oh, can't you see, I can't imagine life without your love. And even forever don't seem like long enough. 'Cause every time I breathe I take you in, and my heart beats again. Baby, I can't help it, you keep me drowning in your love. Every time I try to rise above, I'm swept away by
there it is. That is the Backstreet Boys on Boy Band Friday. Yes, just this week is Boy Band Friday. Backstreet Boys with Drowning. Hope you guys really, really enjoyed that. Yeah, that reminds me because we, in the past, I really wanted to be in a boy band. As funny as that sounds. But I actually, when I was in England in 2005, 2006, we made a music video to this song. And we sent it to Pastor Joe. We put clips of Pastor Joan in it, but it was really funny. 5 of us were pretending to be in a boy band, lip syncing this song and made it into a music video. I should post it one time because it's just so funny. But either way, that was Backstreet Boys with Drowning, which leads us into the last segment for today. And of course, I am super thankful and grateful and happy, especially for Tuli over there in Australia, just doing an amazing job on this Let's Testify segment. And this week, she has interviewed another person, and it's going to be a wild ride. I hope you guys really super enjoy this. It's going to be a 2-part series, so we're going to hear part 1 today. Everyone, please welcome Tuli Ashton from Australia with her awesome interview show, Let's Testify.
Hi guys, this is Tuli, and it's another episode of Let's Testify. I hope everybody had a great 316 both individually and with their churches. And today we have a testimony from Crystal, who's a missionary in Germany. We had to split this testimony up over 2 weeks. It's a little bit of a hair-raising testimony, so I'm sorry about the tension from 1 week to the next. Please contact me if you have a testimony to share. My email address is in the description below. Please sit back and enjoy part 1 of Crystal's testimony.
Hallelujah! First of all, thanks to the Trinity for this opportunity to testify, and thank you, Tulia, for also inviting me. My name is Crystal. First of all, a little bit about myself, so you know who I am if you don't already know. I was born in Taiwan. I immigrated to New Zealand with my family when I was young, and I was evangelized in Japan in 2005. So my spiritual birthday is coming up quite soon, just before 316, and I will be 17 years old in Provi age. Woohoo! The longest period of Providence mission that I had was pioneering and also later head leading in Wellington Church of New Zealand for about 10 years. So first of all, I'm truly grateful that the Trinity have really made my dreams come true. I've had the blessing and the privilege to travel and to live in many countries, especially to experience God's providence history and also to devote myself for missionary work, which I am very, very passionate about. And recently, the word has been, repeatedly urging us to never forget the times that God saved us, so that we would realize even more deeply and give thanks and also live in joy. He also told us that God surely will be with us when we do God's work, help us, give us wisdom, strength, especially God will be with us if we have to go to somewhere dangerous. But of course, before I start my testimony, just a word of encouragement. Please don't go anywhere that's dangerous. Don't do anything that would put yourself or anyone else at risk of physical harm if you don't have to, because I want to testify that human beings, actually our lives are really fragile. Because today, I'd like to share one tremendous experience that I had when God saved me and my fellow brides from a near plane crash. So, of course, I said near plane crash because fortunately, the plane that I was in did not crash. Because if it did, I don't think I would be here to testify. I think the chance of surviving a plane crash is very, very low. And also to encounter something like that is a very extreme situation. So what I'm about to testify about may shock you. And some parts of the story would seem very unbelievable. But I believe I am a person with several close to death experiences, I have to say. Of course, not as many as Hansanim, obviously. But I think maybe more than the average person, I've come to, kind of have close brushes with death. Now, this is one of my few experiences where I was close to death, not the only one, but of course the key is that the Lord saved not just me, but a team of members whom I was with, as well as a few hundred other passengers that were with us in the plane together. It's not very easy to describe this experience vividly in words, but if you have seen a movie where the plane is about to crash, maybe to an extent you can imagine what it was like for me. Okay, as I said earlier, I got to travel and be a missionary for a few countries, apart from in Japan, where I was born spiritually, and also in New Zealand. I've also lived in South Korea, Germany, England, South Africa, and a few other places. And this incident happened in 2006, which is just a year after I came to Providence. I was still very young and spiritually quite immature, but since the beginning that I came to this history, I really had this fire to evangelize, to save lives. So from my university in Osaka, in Japan, I evangelized diligently, and I was able to connect 2 Mongolians to the word. Now, they learned the word, they realized, they passed, and they were number 3 and number 4 of the entire Mongolian beginning history at that time. So, a little bit of background. First 4 Mongolians were evangelized in Japan, and they were very determined to start a church. My leader in Japan at that time, who was also in charge of the what's equivalent of today's International Mission Department, IMD, of Japan, she personally discussed with Sanzinim and also made a plan of pioneering the Mongolian first church. So by this time, number 1 of Mongolia went back to the capital city, Ulaanbaatar, to prepare for a physical foundation for the future church, and also set up so that if a pioneering team would come to support, all we needed to do was evangelize and start teaching the word. So that's the background of this incident. I was on my way to Mongolia. And it was my very first missionary trip. Actually, at that time, I didn't even really acknowledge that it was a missionary trip. I was just a helper because I was very young. I had just passed about 1 year. So there were 7 of us, including number 3 and 4, the 2 girls that I evangelized. I was so excited. I couldn't sleep for days before that. So on the day that we traveled from Japan to Mongolia, I was extremely tired physically. So there was also a small team of 7 people, and we had been setting pre-dawn prayer conditions, and we exercised every day to prepare our bodies and spirits for this mission. So on the day of departure, we arrived at Kansai Airport to board the plane bound for Ulaanbaatar, which is the capital city of Mongolia, expecting to meet the Mongolian member number 1, and then we just start evangelizing right away, and so on. So I was walking towards the boarding gate, and I looked out the window, and I saw the plane that we were about to board. And I thought, the plane looks a bit old, like kind of rusty. Like I felt, I've never seen a plane looking this old. And there was like a funny feeling about it. But of course I was too excited, I didn't really care. And I remember I was seated in the middle of the 3 rows, like 3 rows, 3 seats on the left, 3 seats in the middle, and 3 seats on the right. So there were 3 rows and with 2 aisles with other members. So yeah, the plane took off and was flying upward at full speed. You know, that G-force you experience when just like going up. I believe this was when, the plane is moving the fastest because it has to get away from the gravitational pull of the ground and so on. So usually after like maybe a minute or so, then the plane would level itself and stabilize the speed and altitude. So this is when it happened. Within about 10 seconds after the plane had leveled itself, this is the time when you kind of, take a breath, relax, because that pressure from G-force was eased. And suddenly, there was a huge explosion at the right wing, and the entire plane shook. Yeah, it was like, kaboom, right? And of course, there were screams and panic, that followed from the passengers. But I felt like because we were traveling with a lot of Japanese passengers, actually people were quite calm. Like nothing was out of control, even though a few people, of course, screamed because of the explosion. But people just calmly waited for someone to do something. Like, a cabin crew should come and make an announcement, tell us to, stay calm or something like that. Actually, people were quite calm. To this day, I find it really fascinating. So nothing happened. The plane just carried on flying in midair, even though there was an explosion. But I could feel clearly that the speed was reduced a little bit. And then we could see outside the window because I was in the middle row, so I wasn't right next to the window, but I could see. We were all looking out towards the direction of our right, where the right wing was. There was actually smoke outside, like blowing by. So just as we were really confused, waiting for someone to make an announcement, another explosion, a second explosion happened. Kaboom! But this time it was a little bit smaller, not as loud, but it felt scarier because perhaps we were all anticipating something and then it happened. like a scary movie, like a jump shock kind of thing. Still, from the right wing, same place, but this time, because we're already looking, we could see, I saw little flames and sparks were flying by outside the window. I couldn't actually see the wing itself because of where I was seated. Okay, and also I remember feeling like a little bit of heat coming from that direction. Just like when you look at a flame, you can feel some heat if you're close enough. I'm not sure if it's just my imagination, but I felt like there was flame and smoke outside and as if it was kind of hot on that direction. So it really felt like something was on fire, like our plane was on fire. But at this time, you think, come on, someone please say something. So the two cabin crew unbuckled themselves, who was behind us. They were behind us, they got up and they just kind of rushed. They walked very hastily up the aisles towards the cockpit and then they just disappeared. Now, I was in the economy seating, so I couldn't see what was really going on at the front, but there was no announcement. And from this point on, we were still anticipating what's going on. We were so shocked. Then at this time, we could start to feel that the plane was not only reducing speed, I felt like, when you're driving really fast in the car and you take your foot off the accelerator, right? So it's still moving forward, but because of inertia. In other words, the plane was stalling, right? Now, what's truly, truly scary from this moment is that from that point on, we were literally dropping from the sky, like we were falling. We just kept going down, but not like phew, like right away. It's like from this time we could feel the plane started to just tilt forward, and then we were kind of like, as if when they make an announcement and tell you that the plane's about to land, like prepare for landing, you feel like you're going down, right? So we were going down, but at the same time, I could feel the plane was turning left. It was starting to make a turn, like making a very big turn. So, in principle, you're just moving in circle because you're turning and turning and turning. So it felt like we were going in a giant circle while dropping in altitude. In other words, it was like a downward spiral.
Woohoo! I can't wait till next week's part 2 of Crystal's testimony. Please join us then, and I hope you have a great weekend. Peace.
And what an amazing, intense story. I've actually heard this one before, not actually from Crystal, but from someone else who was there at that time. But what an intense, I can't wait for part 2. So I hope you guys look forward to it. Next Friday, we'll have part 2. It's a lot of like, oh my gosh, what happened next kind of thing, right? So I'm really, and obviously she didn't die or else she wouldn't be able to do it. So don't think about the worst case scenario in this, right? But Crystal doing an amazing job at missionizing over there in Germany. I've known her since I think I've known her entire 17 years in Providence when I went to go visit New Zealand also. But great, and thank you so much, Tuli, for another awesome interview. Hope you guys really, really enjoy it. This is the last segment for this entire week, not just for Friday, but the entire week. Hope you guys have amazing, awesome weekend. Remember, on Sunday, the new Sunday edition, we have Rachel Tan from Malaysia. She'll be on there. She's a campus member, so you guys will really, really love that one. And of course, we'll see you guys again on the Monday Morning Star Drive on 117.8.
It's the Morning Star Drive 117.8. You soaring up with sky, now's the time, don't delay. I'm sitting in my ride and it's time to fly. So let's realign, just listen and fill your mind.
I'm burning with desire and the passion. Nobody can